Welcome everyone to the virtual staff room for the updates for the end user for February 2023. It's lovely to see so many people here. And we're going to kick straight off. Just to remind you, in case you missed the notification in previous months, there's now a lozenge of buttons inside the Google Meet that allows me to navigate through my slide deck. And an additional button was added last month, but it was not in time for me to demonstrate it, so I'm going to demonstrate it now. And that's the option to share. Now, Chris will probably send this out as well, but you literally press the share button. Just pressed it. Come on, behave. Press the share button. Oh, yeah, and it should have dropped the slide deck into the. I've done it twice by accident because I pressed it twice. I didn't see anything happen. So you can share it automatically. And if I hadn't, the sharing permissions wasn't set that anyone with a link can view it, a sharing window would pop up and allow me to say you would all be able to see, view only or whatever the permissions are that I would have set for this document. So if you're in a Meet and you need to share the slide deck you're using, you will get that slide share option within the little lozenge which sits above my presentation. You probably can't see that, but it is there. So that's great. It works perfectly. So that was from the previous month's updates, but it's there now for us, which is great. So moving on then. So there's quite a lot of Google Sheet improvements this month. I'm going to try and demonstrate some of them towards the end, just so you get a flavour of how some of them work. This is about localizing the way Google Sheets behave. So if you state the localization, it should be able to make better use of the various formats that you use. So you shouldn't get confusions about the different date formats, for example. And also it should also improve the import of CSVs. The example of the site is that it's much more common in France for them to use a comma rather than dot for decimals. So it would know that it was in France and therefore expect a comma when it came to that import and manage it that little bit better. So the CSV import would work that bit better for them. I mean, we use a comma differently, don't we? So it probably wouldn't have affected us particularly, but those two things will be better. More localized information so it knows how to behave better, and better CSV imports local to your area and an understanding of what those sort of anomalies would be from region to region, which is fantastic. This is a function that I was brand new to. I'd never even used it before. I'm assuming for the maths teachers on here that they have used it before, and that's great. And it's just basically just the way that it presents is just slightly different now. So you put the base in and then the exponent, and it then gives you the result. So I'm sure your maths teachers will be delighted that that's a really neat way to get a power of a particular number. So 2, 4 would present as a number 16, for example, because 2 to the power of 4 is 16, and so on and so forth, and all those kinds of things. 3 power 3 would be 27, and they're the only two I can remember. I'm sure there are much more intelligent ones I could have cited, but you get the idea. So it's just the way it presents is different on the screen now. So to make your maths teachers aware if that's a tool that they might need to use. So that's available now, which is fantastic. And there are some, like I say, coming along later. I've just mentioned that I've turned on captions for Google Meet. This is talking about the captions that I will get after the event, I presume. Like I say, this is my first time testing it today, and there are no captions on the screen for me at the moment. And I'm assuming there are none for you at the other end. So I'm assuming it's recording what we're doing and using the transcript to automatically generate the captions when we come to use the video. So I'll let you know afterwards what that actually produces. And that is only available for the Teacher and Learning Upgrade and Education Plus. So it's one of the paid versions of Google Workspace, not for all. So just to be aware of that. So that's good. Fractional change this is for Google Shared Drives. So the content manager's now got a slightly better laid out interface when it comes to deciding on the shared settings. This is the screen you get when you click on the cog when you're in the share window inside a Google Shared Drive. And it's the thing that you are now allowed to elect to share folders as a content manager. And it's just laid out. I think there was just 3 options originally. Now there's 4. They've just organized them into 2 subheadings just to make it easier for you to find the particular setting. So you can actually now share individual files, even if someone's not inside the shared group within a shared drive now. So it's kind of making it more kind of granular the way you can share documents, which I think is a good thing. The example I think I cited a couple of months ago was about if you've got documents, you know, someone applying for a job at your MAT or school or college, and you might want them to have access to job specs for a particular amount of time until the interview process is finished. So you could add them into individual files within that shared drive where those job spec documents lie. You'd then probably set a, you know, allow access until this date, wouldn't you? You'd set an expiry date for them, and then it would just automatically turn off. But you can do, you'd have to share the whole drive. You just share the 2 or 3 documents that are relevant to that particular post that they're applying for. So it's quite a useful little tool, I think, and gives you a great deal more control. So that's in shared drives. I'm going to quickly do this one. They are always there. I don't think anyone that I've ever asked on the call has ever used the Google Meet hardware devices, but if you are someone that uses them, apparently there used to be a button around the back that used to actually engage to actually get it to work out which sources it was going to be calling on. There's now an on-screen option to click the button and actually work out which devices are there and which devices are available for you to use. So it just makes selecting the source to present via or whatever that little bit easier. So I'm going to skip over that one because I don't think anyone ever uses this. This is to do with Google Meet on mobile. You've now got a 360 video background available to you. So if someone were to join your Meet and they're going for a, you know, doing a number of routes around a running track, then their forest or their waterfall or whatever would be behind them, whichever direction they were facing. It's a really strange GIF. It's the actual man in the front of it. I don't think is a GIF, but it's such a kind of strange video. It looks a little bit like he's a GIF, doesn't he? But I don't think he's. I think he's real, and the image behind him is the GIF. So, but I'm not absolutely certain. I think he's a real person, but it just looks a bit mechanical. Anyway, so that's a nice little additional bit of information. Something else about more mobile device access features later on in the chat, in the presentation. This is one of those things, and I know this is kind of my mantra. I say this lots and lots about Google developing greater efficiency in the way that you work by putting things much closer, so you haven't got to keep changing tabs and all that kind of stuff. And this is about improving the contact management. You might already have noticed the contact icon in the little list of icons down the right hand side of your screen in calendar, chat, and docs and mail. So you can actually get to your contacts within your inbox or your calendar, whatever. You can add contacts, you can edit contacts, and so on and so forth. So it just allows you to manage your contacts that little bit easier. Whereas in the past, I think probably most of us have gone to contacts.google.com as a separate page and a separate tab and managed them that way. They've now kind of added them in to a separate panel on the right. You got a comment, David?
Yeah, just the thing that I find this really useful for is if you have an email contact selected or an email selected and click on the contacts button, it shows you your recent interactions with them. So you can very quickly jump to a conversation that you've been having with that particular person. So it's not just being able to see the contact details, it's a recent interactions that's really powerful on that, I think.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, no, I hadn't actually had a chance to have a play with that, so I haven't noticed that. Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. You know, you think about Dave is a good example where he's got multiple schools to manage, you know, and if he happens to click on a contact to know where the conversations have been going, you know, holding it all in your head is too hard because there's just far too many because he has too many schools. But to be able to get a quick summary and to remind yourself before you might want to reply and things, that'd be really handy. Yeah, so that's a great idea. But it's that whole thing, isn't it, about a one-stop shop. You aren't managing multiple tabs and moving from tab to tab. And if you're like me and Ian, having far too many tabs open and being able to work out which one is the one where the contacts are in and all that documents in, it just allows you to get to those things that little bit quicker. And I think that's a really good thing. None of these improvements, I think, will save you hours, but it's the moments that add up that end up being hours. I think it makes you a much more efficient worker. So it's definitely a good thing to be happening. And I think contacts is a thing that you kind of got to keep reminding yourself to go to them until recently. But this has made a big difference, I think. So that's great. So thank you very much for that. So this might not apply to anyone at all, but I thought I would keep it in just in case, and I will mention it again tomorrow in case some admin people aren't here today. This is about integration of external apps into Google chat streams. And the two they specifically referenced is Salesforce and Zendesk. and that's why I left it in. I think Zendesk might be a tool that some people use for their kind of support tickets within their organization. I don't know if anyone here does, and if you do, you can now actually integrate your Zendesk support tickets into Google Chat, and you can reassign them to other members of your team. So you can use the same kind of chat support that you've used before, but actually use it to move support tickets around from person to person based on what their kind of workload is. So that seems to me a really useful thing. And same with Salesforce. If you're using Salesforce, you've got a lot of kind of the features that you would, the quick fire, changing access and adding up people and seeing where sales events are up to, which is not so much people like to do here, but it just gives you that little level of integration. I think that will just, again, continue. People will realize that this is where people work, and they need to build their software to integrate with this, so it makes the whole process a little bit easier, so that Ian and I don't have to have endless numbers of tabs open. We can close a few because they all happen within the Gmail or within the calendar. So it makes life simpler, I think, for everyone. But I think, can I ask, does anyone actually use Zendesk for their support tickets? No, sounds like a no. Maybe you'll think about it now. Oh yeah. So Dave uses Zendesk. So you need to be asking them now, Dave. Say, can you please integrate into chat, please? Only Zendesk are, and they might quickly get a developer or two onto it to get you the more efficient working. Who knows? Okay. So you might have noticed this in your recent meetings now, but you can actually do all the checks for your peripherals, like your microphone and your camera and so on and so forth, and what devices are attached to it before you actually join a meet. So they call this image here, this is the waiting room, and you can see they've got 3 drop downs, so you can check your sound and video and things and any connected devices before you actually join the meeting proper, so you've got all your settings correct before you come in. And I'm aware that there's sometimes an issue, isn't there, with the Windows devices not changing the sound source quickly enough when they join a meet. We've had quite a number of incidents where people suddenly they come in and they think they can be heard, and the sound source hasn't changed, so they can't be heard. So they have to go into the settings, and I'm hoping that this might remedy that. I don't know if it has or not in a Windows device, but I'm hoping that that will do that, give them that option to do it quickly in the green room before they join the meet to save them that hassle. Okay, so that's nice and simple. And this, I think, is a biggie. So Google Calendar and Assistant reminders are all going to migrate to Google Tasks. And I suspect this is part of that same thing that I've already mentioned, that Google are looking at how do they reduce the number of tabs you've got open, making it more efficient to get to the things you need to get to on a regular basis, and a push to move you towards Google Tasks. So within, I think the date I've got here is that starting on the 22nd of May, Assistant and Calendar reminders will automatically migrate to tasks for users that haven't already done it. So if you've got people that are using reminders in Calendar, or Google Assistant reminders, then all of those are going to get pushed into Google Tasks. That's where they will appear. And you'll start getting reminders popping up in screens. I'm reading this on another screen. Do forgive me looking away from you. You've got to think, I was sitting and wondering about this. One of the notes it's got is, if you're going to give people the option to take it out of your tasks, out of here, your reminders out of here, and put it in another app, then you've got to let people use takeout to take them out. I'm not quite sure. They've mentioned Keep. The reminders in Keep are not going to be migrated yet. That's the actual words they said. Or will still be available, not yet. Will not be migrated to tasks. Yeah, they'll still be available in Keep, but they will no longer be displayed in Google Calendar once the migration is complete. So any reminders you build into Keep will not appear in your calendar. They'll only appear in Keep. So just to be aware of that. I think the location one should still work though. So you know that if you set a location reminder, to pick up your dry cleaning, when you walk past the dry cleaning shop, a pop-up will arrive on your phone. It's not a hugely used one in schools, so most people are in the building, aren't they? But I think that one will still work. Well, yeah, so Keep is not in that mix just yet. But the calendar reminders and the Google Assistant reminders will slowly move there, and they'll all appear there. But you've got the link, as always. The heading is the link to it. It's best for you to go and read it, because it's different situations for personal accounts and for work and school and for things for admins to do. But just to be aware, and we'll probably remind you of this next month, just so you're you're aware of it getting ever closer, and you should probably have been starting to get some reminders by then. This is a reminder from last month. It's an update about that. We announced that non-printing characters were going to become available in Google Docs. I was very excited. Non-printing characters in Microsoft Word, I found really useful. If some students had laid out a document just by using the space bar to center things, and you could easily quickly see what they'd done and remove all the additional bits of tabs and space bars that they've been using and show them how to use the tools properly. When my last school, when I first moved there was lots of bad practice about how they laid things out on a document. So it's quite a real godsend. And the fact it's been missing from Google Docs has been a great sadness for me. And I've asked for the feature a number of times. It is now in development, and they did announce the launch, but they've had to say it's not going to happen now. It's on hold until they've worked out what the problem is. So I'm very sad, but it's on its way. But at the moment, they're back to the drawing board. So we'll have to see what happens there. But I was very sad when I read that. But there we go. Yeah, so that's not, yeah. And Andy, I agree. I think it's a great tool. I think we had this conversation last time, didn't we? Really handy to see how someone's. The other thing is that when you import from Microsoft Word into Google, sometimes the layout goes a bit funny, and actually into Excel, into Sheets. Yeah, sometimes it goes a bit funny, and particularly in tables, and seeing where all the various bits are gives you the chance to tidy it all up. All those non-printed characters gives lots of useful information. But it will arrive. It's just been delayed because they've clearly encountered problems. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree, Andy. So just watch this space. The announcement will arrive when it's back on track, and I'll let you know as soon as it is. So noise cancellation was originally launched for some accounts only, I think mostly paid accounts. It's off by default, just so that you know, but it's now going to be available for fundamentals and education standard customers as well. So I think they weren't in the mix when it first started. So you should get better noise cancellation in all your meets now, which is great news. And it's things like, road traffic behind you, or if you're in in an open space where there's lots of conversations behind you, it should reduce that background noise and just focus on your noise. So it does make a difference if you're on the road, for example. So that's a good one to happen, which is great news. You might already have noticed this happening already. We've got some chat spaces that are threaded. The most recent ones we've created, and we've got some that's conversation. So our main C learning team was created a long while ago, and it's still in a conversation that you can start new conversations. I think, was it conversations? Was that the word they used? I'm hesitating, I'm not sure, but it's going to go to this threaded view. So if you reply to a particular message inside the chat space, that will become a sub kind of chat, and you can see on the display that you've got the main project in the middle panel, and then the sub thread that were all responses to that one that's highlighted from Anne Gray there, not Sue Gray. Don't get excited. It's not a political statement here. Will all be in separate threads, so you'll be able to follow an individual thread rather than the conversation view that is in the old ones. And the old ones will be, I've forgotten the date now, but the old ones are not being migrated into the new view yet, but they will be later on this year. Yeah, and that's a really good idea, actually. So that's certainly one to send feedback for. Yeah, although that would involve someone titling their thread, wouldn't it? If the things that people are going to respond to, and currently you don't do that, do you? You just write a message. So I'm not quite sure how that would work. But they could nick the summary idea, couldn't they? They do this thing, don't they, where they summarize conversational threads in chat spaces now. So when you've been out of the chat space for a while and you come back, you should get little summaries at the top of it. So they could use those as the headings for the threads. That might work. Yeah, but I don't know where the title would be currently, because there isn't one, is there? Only a chat space title. All right, okay. So yeah, so you need to definitely a feature request, Andy. I think that's a good one. So that's that. Those are coming starting March the 13th. So usual pattern, 15 working days. So over a 3-week period, they slowly roll it out to all the different domains. So you should see it certainly by the end of the first week in April, and that'll all be in place. Work locations have been with us for quite a while. I use them to let people know where I'm going to be. You know, Chris should be changing his this week to say he's in sunny Birmingham, and mine will say that I'm off to Basel, of course. Just saying. And I think we talked with Dave about the fact that, you know, with a team of technicians that are moving around from school to school, to be able to specify which school they're in would actually be really useful, so that you can see at a glance just by looking at their calendars where they are. But you'll now start to get suggestions based on recent locations that you've been to. So rather than having to select it each time, you'll get 2 or 3 suggestions, and you can just click on those, and that will be the location that that's going to be allocated to you for that period of time. So a useful little thing if you've got a large team to manage and then moving around from, you know, campus to campus, would be really useful for you to know that they are all there. So that's really rather neat. So here are some more features in Google Sheets. And these are the smart canvas, the ones that you get by using the Shift @ symbol. And I'm going to show 3 of these. I can't get the finance one to work. I've tried it again this morning, thinking maybe they've just not launched it yet, and I'm just being too eager. But they seem to. I'm going to stop sharing and share this one, just so you can see these. Just present this tab. So you can have a look and see what's happening. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So hopefully you should see this tab here. I'll just very quickly, because I mentioned the power, which we mentioned earlier. So equals power to the base is 2 to the power of 4, for example. Close your brackets, and it just shows you the result of that power calculation. So that's the power one. So then the smart chips, as always, you start with the @ symbol, and you can actually go. You can't see it from there. I'm just going to scroll down. Go away. So you can literally just go @ today, and it sticks today's date in. @ tomorrow, and it sticks tomorrow's date in, and so on and so forth. So those are quite neat little things, which I really quite like. You've got a location one. So if I put the Tower of London, and then it starts to appear, and then you get a smart chip of the Tower of London. The maps bit are particularly nice, because if you just hover over it, you've got, I don't know if you remember with smart chips in Google Docs, if you hover over them, you get the option to preview that document or that YouTube video inside the Google Doc. You don't have to open a new tab again. But if you click open preview here, you get the location on the right in the same way that you do in Google Calendar and Google Mail if you're looking at map stuff. So it allows you to add locations in. So that was today, that was location. The stopwatch. So again, just start to type stopwatch. Come on, not going. Why are you not doing it? Let me try that again. This one's not. Oh, there it is. No, it's a location. Why are you not working now? I'm spelling it right. Why is that not working? Just going to have a quick look at the dates I've done. Locations we've done. Finance, you're supposed to go @ and then the financial example. I would started typing Google, but the Google options to add it as a finance thing doesn't appear. It should show you the market price for their shares, but I can't get it to work. I'm just trying to find my stopwatch one. Where's my stopwatch one gone? It's not behaving. Applications, finance. No, so I've not put the stopwatch one in. So I've no idea why the stopwatch one isn't working. It did work the other day, and it's confusing me completely why it's not. I'm going to try one more time. Is it not showing it, is it? and not as a down. Yeah, okay. So in theory, that stopwatch one is supposed to work, and it did work last week. I've no idea why it doesn't. But you've seen the others. The option to go at today, at tomorrow, or select a date, add a smart chip for a map, and it allows you to preview it within the document. You don't have to go anywhere else. You've got at finance, and again at, and you start to type the name of the financial entity. So I tried Google, and nothing appears that's a financial entity in all my lists. Locations do, but there's no financial information. There's calendar items, files, and accounts, but nothing else. So at the moment, the finance one doesn't seem to be working either. So I'm not quite sure why. Let me go back to this one and share this one again. Here we go. Let me just go past these. So it's part of the same thing. Again, that same mantra, increasing the functionality and the speed with which you can integrate things, which is exactly what we want. Actually, I'm presenting the wrong slide there. That's January's, not. It's this one. I'm going to stop sharing that. Where am I at? Getting in the pickle now. Okay. I have used a computer before, honest. Just present this tab. There we go. In the right place now. Okay. There we go. And then the last one, I think, is I mentioned there's some more updates for Android. If you happen to be wealthy enough to have afforded one of these very snazzy new folding screen Android devices, you've now got a two-screen view, two kind of folded view on those devices for mail, Gmail, chat, and so on and so forth. So it allows you to see some a little bit more in a little bit more detail. So that I think is really great that they're actually building for those devices now. Maybe we'll see a Google Pixel with a folding screen soon. Who knows? And then finish off by saying Monday, the 3rd of April, is the next updates. Any questions? Any of those?
Can I just ask you on there, Paul?
Absolutely.
Just before Andy nips in. Oh, Andy, too slow there. Too slow. You'll be in a second. You'll be in a second. You'll be in a second.
It's not a question. No, it's just I think quite a lot of the stuff in there is pretty nebulous. It would have been nice to see some more useful stuff. I mean, sure, a folding device display is useful to some people, but things like embedding smart canvas in Gmail and other areas, so it works across a range of the mainstream applications, would have been really useful, because it's incredibly useful once you start using that smart canvas.
Yeah.
And I would rather have that any day than the foldable screen view. So I think some of the things that they put in this time are what I would call marginally on the desirable list, not on the essential list.
Yeah,
so
no,
disappointment on some of those.
Yeah.
You get that, I guess, don't you, Paul? It's just, sometimes you're going to get...
It's hard to know what we're going to get, isn't it? And when we're going to get it, really.
Exactly. One thing I would just like you to cover off, if you can, if something pops up within the chat while we're going along there, it's always nice to sort of demo it. And I know Dave mentioned about the contact management experience where you've got recent interactions with people.
Yeah.
And I'm like the world's biggest cloud search fan. So I just wondered whether you could bring that up, even if Dave has to chip in a little bit, because I don't know whether you've used this feature yet, have you, Paul? I certainly haven't.
No, but the contact stuff is there. So let me have a little look.
Okay.
Let me just have a quick look at what we get when I do it, so that I know what I'm showing. So I'm not.
Okay.
Whilst you're looking at that, I think I can just speak on this a little bit. It's also worth having a look at contacts within other apps as well. For example, if you go into Google Calendar and you click on today's event and then click on contacts, it will show you the invite list, not the attendee list, and then you can see some of the contact details through there. So I think it's a really useful way of being able to both connect and ascertain people's details. Because if I look in this Google Meet at the moment, I can see people's names, but that doesn't really give me a way of connecting with them. Yeah, if I go into calendar and then click on the contacts icon on the right hand side, I can see everybody's email address.
Yeah.
And from there, not only can I email them, I can request to start a video call with them. I can send a chat. I can schedule another calendar event. So it is. I think this is probably, it looks like not very much on the surface, but I think this could be really useful for that that speeding up of interactions. And like I said, I mean, I've just selected Andy's name, for example, on there, and it brings up a list of recent interactions, which shows the meetings that we've been in together, the emails that we've sent, and some other things. So I think it's really useful. So when I'm trying to work out who's that Andy Eastcrab bloke, I'm sure I've seen him somewhere before. I can look on, oh yeah, I met him last week. You know, it's really useful, I think, for that. I think this is something that I probably hadn't noticed until you've pointed it out today, Paul, but I can really see the benefit in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think that just adding on to that deeper level integration for really useful tools like that. I'd like to see that working out across many areas rather than some of these gimmicky ones, I guess.
Yeah,
like
it's hard, isn't it? And I get why they're doing it. You know, I think there are a very substantial number of people whose first device they go to is their mobile device. You know, I think that's definitely true. I mean, our jobs mean that that's probably not the case for us, although I do use my mobile a load. But you know, I think it's just a feature of current devices, and they're gonna go with that, aren't they? And it could be an indication that maybe they're planning to do the same for themselves. Like I said, maybe we'll get a split screen Pixel in the next iteration. Who knows? But just what after am I sharing my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you see this? So here's my calendar. This is the event that we're in now. It's open on my calendar, and you can see that I can see all the people who are in the event down here, who were invited to the event. So that is quite handy to see. And then
so if you click on their name on the right hand side, Paul, so if you click on Jamie's name, for example, on your right hand side here, it opens up further interactions at the top, those shortcut buttons, plus more contact details. Maybe don't give Jamie's mobile number out to everybody. I don't know if you want that, but you can see by scrolling down there. I think that panel in itself is really useful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's a little bit like cloud search that Chris mentioned earlier. It kind of gives you the interactions with that particular person. Yeah.
It's like cloud search, where you just type a name in the top or a document and you search Omnibox and off you go. It's great.
It's another example though of being in the actual screen that you're in and having the ability to do that, isn't it? Rather than having to go into the waffle button and then go down, find cloud search and then load that up. It's just that kind of slightly slicker, tiny little savings probably. But if you're doing that every single day like I am with cloud search, then you know, again, it's going to save you a lot of time over the month or the year. So yeah, it's really good to see that. I like it.
Yeah.
Marginal
Absolutely.
gains. The other thing that I noticed from it is that it's another example of somewhere else that we need to look for the feedback button, because on the right hand side now there's a little tab sticking out for feedback. So it's not the question mark in the bottom left or the icon on the menu bar. There's a tab hanging out the right hand side of the screen saying feedback now.
Yeah. There is indeed.
Nothing like consistency, eh? And I think just to speak to Andy's point earlier, I think, you know, we have to remember that these updates are accumulation of things that have reached maturity from a large number of different teams within Google. So I don't think that that Mr. Google is saying we've got to prioritize on folding screens. It's just what happens to be ready, isn't it, this month? Yeah,
ones that are bubbling up to the top when they're done, so they might as well get them out. Yeah.
See, I think, and there's also that. Andy and I think we're really excited at the prospect of non-printed characters arriving, and they've taken them away. So I get your frustration, and they'll be back. But it's it's just potluck what we get. That's the reality of it, isn't it? And who knows what's going to be coming next? But it's and the smart chips I think will continue to grow.
Yeah.
Now they've hit upon that idea. It just does. It's like Dave just said. Those fractional gains, and you almost don't sense the improvement to your efficiencies. But it's happening all the time.
Yeah.
And And I do this thing where it's called 15 in 15 or 10 in 10, where I do 10 tips or 15 tips in either 10 or 15 minutes respectively. If there's like a gap in a bit of training that we're doing. And when I showed smart chips to a group in Ireland in November, I got out. People went, ooh, they were just so excited because they thought, the potential of these are just phenomenal. And it does present a little bit in mail in that you've got the search chips across the top, which are but you haven't got a control over what those are. Yeah. So they're beginning it, but yeah. And I suspect there's also a big challenge for them in terms of the @ because of course if you're in mail, @ serves a very particular function, doesn't it? So actually how they overcome that and keep consistency within the smart chips across the multiple apps would be interesting to see. But then we'll have to wait and see what happens in that one. So,
I think what Dave showed on the contacts is the type of integration it can go where you keep going deeper and deeper. You click on one and it opens up more. Yeah, you can sort of keep going. I mean, simple things like the creating minutes from a calendar entry with all the attendees and a title is great, but you can't use the app function yet when you're creating a calendar event to add bits of information in. That would be really useful. Great having the minutes there, but it would be also really useful having the other stuff. So we need to get all these things upvoted, don't we? And
yeah, absolutely. Has anyone tried copying and pasting a smart chip across apps? Just suddenly wondered if you made it in a Google Doc and then copy and pasted it, whether it would actually what would happen. Calendar. I don't think it would come across because it's like you say, they're not integrated yet.
No, I know if you had a document, because what we're trying to do is to reduce the amount of email we have in the organisation of people sharing things and sending it out for a meeting or things by putting those documents and references on a calendar, so people just look on the right hand panel and click on a calendar and they can see all the minutes, the whatever documents you're discussing, etc., all in the calendar, rather than sharing them all with everybody all the time.
Yeah. Are you using the take meeting notes?
Now in there, when you add a document, you click the paperclip to do it. But once you've added the document in, what you can do is you can drag it round. So I structure some of my calendar invites with, here's the last time's minutes, here's the new minutes, here's the 3 things we're discussing, and you can put them under little subheadings that I put in bold.
Right.
So you can drag, once you've done it with a paperclip and you've got sort of the smart chip there in the calendar entry, you can drag and drop it.
All right. Okay.
Quite useful.
Yeah.
Rather than all just being at the top.
Dave's just had a quick play. Copying and pasting smart chips from a Google Doc into a calendar works.
Does it?
Yeah. So they do support them, but you can't build them inside calendar just yet.
No, so copy and pasting from one app to another works. So I created a smart chip for a location in Sheets.
All right.
And copied it and it pastes into Docs. Okay. Brilliant. So it works within, there is some interoperability there. I've not tested it with other apps at the moment, but
no, I'm not.
Yeah, they're good things to try out, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Like excellent. Any other questions, comments from anyone, either related to the things or any other questions you would like us to try and answer?
No. Good.
Excellent. I think we're there then. Good. Well, if there's no other questions, I'm going to turn off the recording.